You just introduced me. My name's Ben. I appreciate being here. I think this kind of networking stuff is cool all by itself, and we don't do it enough. And it's good to see some familiar faces, meet some new people. On that tone, I'm just introducing myself, where I'm from, a little bit about me. My contact information will be in the back at the last slide. I like collaboration in all ways, so if there's any opportunity, please take that down. What does CECO do? At the end of the day, we are a subcontractor, a major subcontractor, and we do concrete construction on big buildings, and we do that everywhere across the country. I put the pre-construction and the construction slides down there because if we're really talking about how do we use cmBuilder, it's in a pre-construction phase, discussing with our clients, and where we found the most bang for the buck is communicating with our field, because our cost structure is mostly labor. If we're doing formwork only, it could be 90% labor. If we're doing full Division 3, it's 50% labor. And where the rubber meets the road is down at the crew leader level. The person running 5 or 6 people, and do they understand what's expected of them for the day? And do they understand who's coming next and who's coming before them? CECO is all across the country. Our Pacific Northwest office has averaged about this kind of volume year after year. We're not doing that this year, but it'll be back. CECO nationally, there's their numbers, and they are meeting or exceeding that. Our Texas office, our Florida office, which is also, Florida's a big user of cmBuilder, they're having gangbuster type years. I plan to talk about how we use it internally, how we use it externally. We're not using it at a real defined presentation level yet. So it's meant for our superintendents. It's meant for the superintendents of our general contractor clients. It's meant for the superintendents or PMs of developers when we work directly for developers. We're trying to solve specific issues, be a team player with specific issues. So you'll see from some of my slides, it's about formwork, it's about concrete buildings. The building off to the site, to use one of your guys' examples, was it didn't have to be right. It's not the right building. It's just a building that's in the way, and we're trying to see how we're going to deal with it. If somebody wants to interrupt and ask a question, please do. I'd like a conversational presentation more than the whatever, if something interests you. I think this is a real-world example. That's a big core on a high-rise building in Bellevue. You can see on the left is a picture of the actual construction of it. Getting that formwork to work exactly right so you can hit the button and it goes straight up and nothing's in the way is a big deal. It's expensive, and a lot of people sitting around waiting for us to figure it out if it doesn't work right. And that rebar element is a big prefabricated piece of rebar that's got to fly in and it can't hit those gantry beams. And so trying to do that over a set of plan view with a rebar salesman and one of my foremen, it's 1,000 words when you've got the picture on the right. There's the core. We could have our BIM people open it up, talk about how we're going to access it. And that's really how we're using it. A lot of times in a downtown environment, our formwork becomes a big deal as it relates to right-of-way safety, public safety. If you hire CECO to do anything, it's the building doesn't fall down and we don't drop stuff off the building and hurt people. And so if you think about the logistics of that, here's the next side of that flying out. That it looks like something flying out, but that's 70, 80 feet long, going out over Bellevue Way, and explaining that to other subcontractors, explaining that to the city, or giving our clients a tool so they can go to their OAC meeting and talk about, hey, here's what this looks like. A whole lot better than email or proposal or words. Something like that. On this particular job, we were trying to decide between should we use the fly table straight out, like was in the last picture, or one of these enclosure type systems. This system's much more expensive. The client has to pay a premium for it. The owner has to pay a premium for it. 1,000 words using this software to explain it to somebody versus over a SitePlan. That makes sense. It also goes straight up. So trying to explain you're not having the impact on Bellevue Way. That's where we were using the visual with our client. I just like going back and forth, but that's trying to say that in an email. Right, that's what we're talking about. One of the cool things happened is if we get to build it, I think Bellevue's about to go, but we ended up coming up with a hybrid solution that let's pay the premium where Bellevue Way is impacted on the backside of the site where it doesn't matter so much. Let's not maximize cost versus benefit type stuff. I like having this slide up here because this is what it used to look like. It's the same conversation, right? It's the guys back from the beginning, right? Trying to talk about versus the slides we're talking about. That's how we're really using the software. That's how we're really engaging with our clients, our general contractors, straight to developer. I got it over there. Here's another example of, I'm not sure if we're going to build this or not yet. We're waiting to see if it goes, but these two slides are how we're modeling. It's 100 feet up in the air. It hangs over an existing building, and we're trying to deal with the neighbor that maybe likes our customer or maybe doesn't like our customer. And if you can go down and set stuff on top of their building to build this, not too bad from a cost point of view. If you can't, very, very expensive. And trying to explain that and trying to show, I don't have the formwork on here yet, but the next slide. The other thing about this building is that V-shaped, N-shaped column structure. You got to build 9 levels above that cantilever so the angled thing can go up and then it supports it hanging down. That's super heavy. Every piece of our formwork has got to support that, and it becomes a forest of formwork that'll sit underneath that. And if we can't sit on top of the other guy's building, it's going to be damn near impossible. So 1,000 words trying to communicate. That's both of the other presenters talked about communication. That's what we're using it for. Is trying to explain to people this is a big deal and not have scope gaps or missings in expectations. This is a place where we've used it from a presentation point of view. As we get bigger, as we take on more scope, we're starting to bid directly to developers in a design build, design assist capacity. And when you're doing that, here was a building that didn't exist yet, there were no drawings. And if you're trying to explain to a developer, here's what we think your building's gonna look like, and reading your narrative and what things you've said, here's the places where we think you have opportunity to save money if you want to. But from a 50,000 foot level, the blue, we thought the footings were over designed. The red indicates places where it's architecturally exposed concrete, which can be expensive if that's what you want to pay for. That 10th level that's in blue, there's some extreme loading stuff that's going on because of what they're putting up there, but it was designed much thicker with a whole lot more rebar in it than we thought. And this was just purely for presentation. And I'm only showing still videos, but some of the other guys, or the screens are on, you can see the model flipping around and diving in and going in and looking at stuff. It was helpful in that situation. Here's more examples. Part of this site, they were deciding whether they were going to shore or not shore, over excavate or not over excavate. It's rudimentary. It's not exactly right, like somebody just said from Venture, but it gets the point across, right? Of this is how you can impact your site over X versus not. I'm just zooming in more detail. I went a whole lot quicker than I thought I was going to. That happens when you public speak. I'm sort of at the end of all the slides I have. I was really trying or hoping to get a discussion as it relates to, there's a lot of our clients or potential clients in the room, whether it be general contractor or developer. We're just starting to play with the software. I'm interested from a subcontractor's point of view. Where would we get access to, or how could we benefit the general contractor community as a subcontractor, or anybody out there who is using it and is trying to coordinate with subs? What could the subcontracting community do to make this a better experience, or make life easier for you, or make it so that you weren't we're doing all of this stuff anyway. We're already modeling the building when we take it off. A lot of times we're putting it into cmBuilder just to explain it to our build teams to try to get the kind of production blessed so that we can go sell work right now. We want to do this at 10 square foot per man hour, not 8 square foot per man hour. Now I'm hoping somebody says something.
I see it being advantageous, like when you guys start talking about your layout of your tables and your flyers,
yeah.
Right? Like a lot of us are using this already, and we're, whether we're taking a Revit model and we're using the structure to depict from a logistics standpoint, like what we're building. But if we can turn that over to you in pre-con, like early, I think Dean was mentioning it, like during the buyout phase, when we're looking at that from a logistics and a safety perspective, especially with tight sites by right-of-way spaces.
Yeah.
Like that's huge for us to understand, like what's your guys' take? Like how big are the tables, you know, what's your plan here?
Yeah.
And then taking that a step further, making sure that buyout, we've coordinated that, and then we can just continue, you know, through the pre-con and then integrate to your shop drawings and your line drawings. That's where I see the benefit of it.
Yeah, it makes total sense. So us building this out during the pre-con phase and just handing it over and saying, how can you use this? I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, or ask like your GC partner that you're looking at a job for, like, hey, are you using it?
Yeah.
If they are, it'd probably streamline you guys creating this from scratch if somebody's already done it, right? Then you can take it a step further and really hone in the formwork and what the table layout looks like, right? And it'll stem good conversations about logistics, trucking, you know.
100% agree.
all those
That's why we
facets.
started doing it in the first place. Is some of our customers were using it, we could see it, and we knew it wasn't exactly right, and maybe we could make it better. Right?
Definitely.
One thing I didn't say on this slide too is we have used it with whether it's KPFF or CPL, you know, to optimize the use of these table systems. It's got to be designed right. In a perfect world, we would build only square concrete boxes where the columns line up and down in every corner and everything. We don't invite architects to those meetings. But having this visual in a meeting with the architect and structural engineer and saying, you do have some leeway. You can waive the balconies with this system 6 and 8 feet out like we did with that Avenue Bellevue job, which is one of these. But being able to facilitate those conversations with the architect and engineer of, you can do this, but you can't do this if you want to have this kind of efficiency, I think was a benefit to our general contractor design teams. Thank you for speaking up.
You mentioned you were coordinating this with a rebar contractor. How all are you, and what aspect are they coordinating back with you? Are they in the same model, or are you using it more just a visual right now to show them, here's the space that we have, and just talking through it, or are they actually editing your model too?
The prior, it's using it as a communication tool to get off of a set of plans and say, no, here's the kind of congestion we're talking about, and whether it's modeling a boundary element inside of a climbing core, or if we see congested rebar, you know, you can draw pictures of rebar that's 2 inches on center and a boundary element, and now you're talking to the ironworker boss going, is this possible? Was this a good use of grade 80 versus not to spread this out? But it's really to facilitate collaboration and communication versus the latter.
And I'll speak on behalf of the GC, where I would love to have trade partner input, would be things like a crane plan, something like that, where I've got the site parameters and here's what the owners allow me to do. But for them to convey that message of here's the footprint, here's what it's gonna affect, here's how long we're gonna be here. And then also convey that to the rest of the subcontractors that are also fighting over the space. If they understand, it becomes a communication tool versus just a dictation of, you gotta move your stuff. Cranes come in.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, and I totally agree. That's, you only have so many still shot slides to put in here, but that's been a lot of the way we've been able to use it, both internally and externally, and with some of our other subs is, here's the crane you have planned, here's the radius, here's all the stuff I have to pick, here's how much it weighs. Let's start playing Jenga with it, and how are we going to get stuff in the right place, which I think is what you're talking about. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ben? Oh, okay, sir. Good job, Ben.